Senator, it's great to see you again. And the leader, John Thune, has tasked you with trying to make sure that the fraud that we've seen in I want to say Somalia, but I'm going to say Minnesota for now, just to be politically correct. But it feels like Somalia is never going to happen again. I've got a lot of thoughts on this, but let's start there. So you're going to be, or you have convened perhaps, the Senate DOGE Caucus. You got a big plan you want to roll out, and I want to get some of the details.
Absolutely. Thanks, Alex. And yes, Leader Thune has tasked me as the Senate DOGE Caucus chairwoman to put together a package from our members that will deal with fraud and waste. And exactly, now that we've seen what's going on in Minnesota with the Somali population there and the massive amounts of fraud through federal government programs, people are becoming excited about it again. Now, DOGE has been around. We keep working, but the fact is now we've got more steam behind us because we've seen the exposing of these learning centers that actually had no children enrolled at them. So we are gathering today in our caucus. We have a base plan already prepared to present to Leader Thune in a legislative package. But what our members will do, they will present their own ideas. And it's many different buckets. It's government efficiency, it's closing loopholes, it's exposing fraud. I mean, there are so many different ways we can get at this, but we want one big package that we can move through the Senate and then hopefully the House and get it to the president's desk for signature.
Yeah, of course, you were in charge or are in charge of the Senate DOGE Caucus, and you've got a reputation for looking for fraud, waste, fraud, and abuse in general. That's one of the things that you've made your signature in Washington. I want to talk about, are we targeting Minnesota specifically, or are we going to be looking at the whole country? Because I got to tell you, as a Californian, I got an idea for you, and it's that fake high-speed rail project I've been hearing about my entire adult life that is it hasn't yielded one train ride.
Yes. So we have talked about this before, Alex, and let me tell you what, they have just decided not to continue with the high-speed rail project because the work that we have done on exposing that.
Good, congrats.
Billions. Yes. So we have saved, just in this fiscal year alone, I think the federal government had allocated about $4 billion. That's just in one fiscal year. Now, this has been going on for years and years and years. And as you pointed out, absolutely no rail has been laid for this high-speed rail project. So finally, gone. It is nixed. It is over. We will not be providing support for that project, and I don't believe the project will be continuing now. So it's just exposing issues like that it has been so helpful because once we expose it, people get outraged. They contact their local officials, they contact us here in Congress, and we're able to put an end to wasteful spending. What we have seen, and back to your original question, we're not just focused on Minnesota. Minnesota is just the tip of the iceberg. We know that there is fraud that is running rampant through federal government programs all across the United States. So while we may be directing a lot of our efforts at what we saw in Minnesota, it means that we can cover down on a number of these issues across all 50 states. So just for example, we know that Minnesota was billions of dollars when it came to those childcare centers that actually didn't really exist. Well, between 2018 and 2022, so think, as we were moving into the pandemic and the years immediately following the pandemic, the Government Accounting Office, the GAO, found anywhere between those years, anywhere from $233 billion to $521 billion of fraud each of those years. And that amounts to nearly 10% of our federal budget.
So my interpretation is we're never going to stop finding this fraud because this is the whole MO for Democrats. It's how they operate, is that they try to buy votes with government funds. They confiscate funds from the taxpayers at gunpoint, and then they scatter it around their various states or wherever their constituency may be in order to try to buy votes. It feels like that's the only explanation for how things could have gotten so bad in Minnesota. So if they're that bad in Minnesota, of course they're going to be that bad in California and probably elsewhere.
Well, right. And it's a hook, all of this money, and you just hand it out and people keep coming to the trough because they just want that free government money. And yeah, Democrats have really conditioned their constituents to, and the way I've thought about this in the past is that there are various groups, they're literally praying at the altar of the federal government. Our government programs have grown so big and so costly, and it then becomes very difficult to audit because there's so many programs, there's so much going on. So really, I believe in much smaller, limited government. When we grow the bureaucracy so big that we can't audit it, we need to rethink what we're doing.
All right, I would be remiss if I did not go through some of you give me a tease in some of the stuff you're targeting. The California Crazy Train is high up on your list. You're also going to be trying to end unemployment for millionaires.
Yes.
It's kind of a funny concept. Getting bureaucrats back to work, God forbid. I mean, and then we have empty and vacant buildings that are costing us billions of dollars a year. I shouldn't laugh at this stuff. It's all horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It sounds like a badly written comedy.
Yeah,
but this is federal government. So we have exposed so much waste, and I'm grateful. The Squeal team that I've had here within my office, we're constantly looking for fraud, waste, and abuse, but then also to our DOGE Caucus members as well. So many people are like, oh, DOGE is dead. And no, because my caucus members and I have been working continuously on a number of these projects and making sure that not only we're ferreting out the fraud, waste, and abuse, but that we're actually making our federal government much more efficient, and so that it works better for our constituencies. But yeah, some of the stuff you really can't make up.
Okay, one of the items that is on your target list is rescissions. Explain this one.
Yes, absolutely. So we saw earlier last year what we call a rescissions package. So we were able to pass this through the Congress, have it signed into law by the president, but we were able to save $9 billion through that initial rescissions package. Now, it's been a very long time since we as a federal government have done that, where we've said, we've programmed out these billions of dollars, but we don't actually need to spend those billions of dollars, so we're going to claw it back. So we did that with $9 billion. What we are hoping to do now, this Congress, this year, in this session, is to provide our rescissions priorities to the budget chair, Lindsey Graham, and push Leader Thune on doing a rescissions package 2.0. So I have already compiled my list of priorities for that rescissions package. I'm encouraging my DOGE caucus members to do the same. It will be really important for us to go through the books once again and decide where we need to actually continue spending the dollars in the federal government. And if there are programs that aren't yielding results, pull the money back. And that's what we can do through a rescissions package.
All right. I want to give you a chance to give me any other highlights that you think are essential for this audience to hear in terms of where you're targeting for cuts.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You've named so many of them. We will continue to go through a lot of those different programs. One of the areas that I have been focused on, because I also chair the Small Business Committee, is continuing to go after the waste and fraud that was committed in the Paycheck Protection Program and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. We saw rampant fraud there, where people were actually using, when they had to submit their paperwork, their photo IDs, they actually had photos of Barbie dolls.